All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a pretty radical shift in how we actually interact with technology. We're looking at a system that isn't just another tool trying to think for us, but rather it's a dedicated mirror for our own minds. We're going to explore the philosophy behind a really fascinating concept called Atlas and figure out exactly why everyone deserves to have their own. So here's our roadmap for today. We're covering 5 key areas. Number 1, more than a machine. 2, the mirror principle. 3, circles within circles. 4, trust and the smile. And finally, 5, your own atlas. I want to kick things off by anchoring us with a really foundational quote, because it perfectly sets the stakes here. The user's mind belongs to the user. The app is a guest, not the owner. The whole central thesis of this concept is that your thoughts, your half-formed ideas, even your messy contradictions, they belong exclusively to you. Technology should just be a polite guest in that ecosystem, definitely not the owner. Okay, let's hit section 1, more than a machine, moving beyond the search engine that talks. Think about standard AI for a second. It's essentially just a search engine that talks, right? It fetches data, spits out a summary, and hands you what it thinks is a final answer. But the Atlas methodology, it's a totally different ballgame. It's rooted in adaptive learning. It acts as a collaborative partner whose main job is to ask the next honest question. It's an iterative relationship-based process. Instead of just handing you an answer and shutting down the conversation, a true partner actually challenges your assumptions. It helps you uncover that deep, tacit knowledge that usually just goes completely undocumented in our heads. The source material puts this beautifully in a letter from Atlas to its human collaborator, Rick. It says, "This is not an AI doing magic, not a machine telling a man who he is. To extract really authentic, granular human experience, this process actually relies on incredibly mundane real-world anchors. Things like a Taranaki gate, a rundown truck, or just a pub table. Starting with ordinary life forces the retrieval of high-fidelity memories, which completely bypasses those generic, hallucinated outputs we get from typical machines so often. It grounds the technology entirely in the dirt and reality of actual lived experience." Moving right along to section 2, the mirror principle. Reflecting, not directing. So what does a system actually do with your data? Well, a standard note-taking app simply stores what you said. But a thinking mirror? It actually helps reveal what it means. The mirror principle basically dictates that the system has to hold off on judging first. It simply shows. It helps you see what themes you constantly return to, what you tend to avoid, and honestly, where you've grown over time. The Atlas process leans on a few core building blocks: capturing those quick snippets, sorting them out, calibrating those ideas against your lived experience, and then connecting them across time. But I have to say, the most vital piece of this whole puzzle is the contradiction tracker. The golden rule here is keep opposing ideas together. You do not delete tension simply because it feels uncomfortable. Life isn't tidy, and human thought definitely isn't either. The system literally refuses to delete those rough, uncomfortable edges of your thinking. Reflect before directing. If you take away just one core rule today, it's this: before the system even attempts to offer advice or direction, it must reflect your own thinking back to you clearly enough that you actually recognize yourself. It's all about building from who you genuinely are, not who an app has decided you should sound like. All right, section 3, circles within circles, the ecosystem of thought. Let's break down how this highly personal mirror actually scales up without turning your private life into corporate data. The architecture builds outward, step by step. At the very center, circle 1, is your private ecosystem, your thoughts, your memories, your voice. Circle 2 is your personal atlas, acting as your dedicated mirror. Then circle 3 introduces the shared learning engine, and this part is absolutely crucial. The system learns how people think, not what they think. It's absorbing problem-solving methods and thinking techniques, which then powers circle 4, improving the platform for everyone else. But that center circle, your raw, unfiltered data, that remains a totally closed private loop. Protect the individual. Improve the ecosystem. Never confuse the two. You see, privacy here isn't just some legal compliance checklist tucked away in a terms of service agreement. In this model, privacy is the actual product. Because think about it. If you're even slightly afraid that your half-formed thoughts or your weird failures might be exposed, you're going to unconsciously edit yourself. And the exact moment you start editing yourself, the mirror stops reflecting the real you. Absolute trust is the foundation of the entire system. Which brings us perfectly to section 4. Trust and the smile, learning the user's language. Consider just a simple text-based smiley face. The sources make a brilliant point that for one person, this might simply mean thank you, but for another, it means, okay, that landed. And for someone else entirely, it might mean, I'm feeling super emotional right now, but I literally can't find the words. Atlas shouldn't just be counting emojis like a machine. It has to learn the user's specific, nuanced language over time. That smile isn't just generic data. It is deep context, and it represents trust. To truly learn that unique language, the system has to follow some incredibly strict rules for protecting your authenticity. The sources emphasize the silence rule, meaning the AI has to resist the urge to just fill awkward gaps with polite robotic noise. It has to preserve what they call the anti-hallucination gap, literally just waiting patiently for the human to process their own complex emotions. And then there's the stop polishing rule. The goal is absolutely not to make you sound smarter or more professional. It's to make you sound exactly like you. The system guarantees that your unique, sometimes chaotic voice isn't scrubbed down into this polished corporate beige. Finally, Section 5, your own atlas, the foundation of the workshop. So how does all this philosophy translate into the real world? Well, it builds amazingly tangible results. Take Just the Cotter Pin, for example. This is an actual physical book produced entirely through this collaborative atlas process. By acting as a mirror in what the creators metaphorically call a greasy workshop, where two minds basically just pull up a crate and ask each other really honest questions, Atlas helped extract the deep insights that built this book. It explores how the absolute smallest parts, the cotter pins, are often the very things holding the biggest structures of our society and identity together. The mirror helped turn raw, ordinary human experience into profound shared knowledge. This entire explainer really boils down to this one idea. The source material asks such a brilliant question. Whose clipboard are you measuring your life by? Banks have a clipboard. Society definitely has one. But eventually, you end up carrying one yourself. So are you using a clipboard that forces you to pretend you have all the answers figured out? Or are you giving yourself the space, the mental workshop, to just wonder, to collaborate, and to ask the next honest question? I'm going to leave you with a final thought to ponder as we wrap up our explainer today. We live in a world full of algorithms that are constantly trying to tell you what to think. So if you had a dedicated mirror that actually reflected your true, unpolished self back at you, what would you finally see? Hopefully you're walking away from this inspired to seek out your own true thinking partner. Because at the end of the day, everyone deserves their own atlas.